Okay. I know a few days ago, we made a video talking about Josh Norris, Ottawa Senators center, and how we might need to temper our expectations for him because he's coming back from injury, it's been a while, and of course you're not going to be able to expect a guy who was a very good scorer when he was in the lineup to take an extended amount of time off and continue being that good scorer right away. Not to say that he's a bad player, but just to say that, hey, if he starts out slowly in 23-24, that's not the end of the world, right? Kind of a negative video, it's whatever. I still do believe that Norris is a great hockey player and he's bound to having great seasons ahead of him. It's why he was signed to that pretty good contract, honestly, in the first place. But we're flipping the script on the narrative in this video, because today, what I wanted to do was just talk about lines. No, we're not going Wolf of Wall Street on y'all, we're going over the Ottawa Senators and some of their lines. Because when it comes to the newest acquisition, not Dominik Kubalik, we're saving him for a little bit later in the video, but when it comes to Vladimir Tarasenko, he is a very good hockey player. And we've talked about this in a ton of videos, but last season the guy had 50 points in 69 games played. So very good number right there. He's still a top-of-the-line point producer who had split the load between a bad St. Louis team and being a secondary option on the New York Rangers. But Vladimir Tarasenko heading over to Ottawa and playing in a top 6 role is going to make things very interesting as to how the Sens are formed next year. Part of this is because Vladimir Tarasenko plays on the right wing, and there are some other guys that have primarily played on the right wing that have offered to change up their positions to make everything work. The quote comes to us from TSN 1200. It was an interview done with DJ Smith. Here's the quote from TSN's Steve Lloyd. With Tarasenko being new in town, DJ Smith tells us that Drake Batherson and Claude Giroux have already both offered to play left wing if need be. Now, this entire idea directly addresses what Sean Simpson was also tweeting about. Funny enough, this Simpson tweet comes after the DJ Smith comment. I was wondering how the right side would line up with Tarasenko in the fold. I would keep Giroux and Batherson on the right side and build a top 9. This group will be able to score, but can they defend? Well, it doesn't matter keeping them on the right side anymore because both Giroux and Batherson have offered to play on the left. Now, let's go over each of these guys. Drake Batherson last season had 62 points in 82 games played for the Sens. 22 goals, 40 assists. He is signed till the end of 2027 making $5 million. Actually, $4.975 million, but it's pretty much 5, so we'll just say 5. That's a really good dollar amount for a guy who can produce upwards of 60-plus points on a season. Even last year, the guy was a point-per-game player. He's really developed that playmaking edge at the NHL level. Drake Batherson is not slowing down anytime soon. Sure, he was a minus 35, but we're not going to talk about that. Who cares? He had 62 points. Meanwhile, Claude Giroux, of course, he's Claude freaking Giroux. He may be 10 years older than Drake Batherson, but this guy was still the other player, battling out with Sidney Crosby in the Metro Division for most of the 2000s and 2010s. Claude Giroux had 79 points last year, 35 goals, 44 assists, and realistically, I mean, the Ottawa Senators, they had some really good scoring out of these top guys. Of course, you're talking about Jimmy Stu, you're talking about Brady Tkachuk. DeBrincat was in there, but you kind of replaced him with Kubalik, whom we've already talked about and said is a pretty good player himself. And then Vladimir Tarasenko was playing on a bad team last year in St. Louis, but even still was able to produce a pretty decent amount. Even last season, I mean, 21-22, Tarasenko had 82 points in 75 games played. That is not a bad number in and of itself, especially for a guy coming over to Ottawa hoping to make a splash. This entire thing highlighted by DJ Smith, how Tarasenko is in, Batherson and Giroux, these guys have offered to move to the left. This tweet was posted onto the R Senators subreddit, and I just wanted to go over some of the comments here because they do bring up some pretty good ideas. Vander Halifax says, I love the idea of trying Giroux on the left wing with Stützle and having Tarasenko on his offhand taking forehand passes from Timmy, as well as Giroux, who can find either of them wherever he is on the ice. Bonus, Giroux can still take faceoffs for Timmy. Then reunite Brady, Norris, and Drake. That's a top 6 that will be hard to stop. And then Pinto gets to play with Kubalik. That's a lot of offensive weapons. There's a conversation afterwards saying, hey, you should leave Tkachuk and Stützle together. They're a perfect fit. then you have a counter-argument to that saying that was last season. Jimmy Stu is going to be a different player again this year, and I think he'll look good with whomever he plays with. You also have yourself some more comments over here. Giroux did have a career high when he switched to left wing for a season, and that was a very intriguing point to bring up because Claude Giroux was one of the only players in 2017-18 to score 100 points in the NHL. He had 102 points, 68 assists, 34 goals in 82 games played. The only other two 100-point scorers that year were Kucherov and McDavid. That was a left wing center split season. So, there you go. Another comment here on the subreddit says that the entire top 9 for the Senators is pretty stacked. There's almost no way to make it bad. Mix and match any of Tim Stützle, Vladimir Tarasenko, Claude Giroux, Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson, Josh Norris, Ridley Gregg, Shane Pinto, and Dominic Kubalik, and it's still quote-unquote stacked. That's 3 scoring lines. As long as we don't start seeing season-ending injuries, knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood, just in case, this team is going to score goals. No doubt. And that definitely plays into what Sean Simpson was saying on Twitter as well. They can score, but can they defend? We'll see where exactly the Sens are able to go in that department as 23-24 goes on. But essentially, the point I wanted to make in this video is that things are going to be pretty interesting in Ottawa because you have a lot of great acquisitions, you've got some pretty good flexibility with the guys that are already there, you've got guys coming back, like Josh Norris, and you've got other younger guys that are also growing and getting better. I'm not going to go out there and say I expect Jimmy Stu to get 100 points or for Brady Tkachuk to get 50 goals, but these guys are so young that last season seems more like a stepping stone than anything else. These guys are going to get better, they're going to grow. And alongside of each other, alongside of all these other great players too, it could bode for a very high-octane offensive season for the Ottawa Senators in 23-24. Even if I went out there and made the video saying that we have to tamper our expectations with Josh Norris, make it so that we're not expecting him to get automatically 40 goals because he's playing for 82 games, hopefully, but it doesn't matter because he's one guy. He's maybe going to get off to a slow start, that's okay, because there are other guys on this team that can carry the load offensively. You've seen this out of Claude Giroux, you've seen this out of Tarasenko. These guys are very strong veterans of the NHL game who know how to score. Batherson is in there too. You've got other guys in the top 9. Pinto is still growing. You've got Kubalik, who had a 30-goal season in his rookie year with Chicago. There's a lot of flexibility offensively with this team, and I think y'all should be very excited as to what's coming over to Ottawa this next upcoming season. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the names listed here on this team? Batherson, Norris, Tkachuk, Stützle, Tarasenko, Giroux, Ridley Gregg, Kubalik, and Shane Pinto, if you wanted to label those guys as the last players. Who fills out the rest of the lineup? Where do you go in terms of the play styles? Who do you play with whom? And what exactly is the expectation here? How many points do you think Vladimir Tarasenko is going to get? How many points do you think Giroux could get on the left wing? What are your thoughts about Drake Batherson also moving to the left side? And how do you think this plays into Jimmy Stu and Brady Tkachuk? Do you split these guys up? Do you play them together? Do you try to force that on the first line? There are a lot of questions, there are a lot of possibilities, but there's a lot of conversation to be had. So let me know in the comment section all your opinions about the Sens heading into next season. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.